All right, grown black folks talk on the climb, and I'm in the middle of one of my favorite places, the lower reaches of Buena Vista Park. After having taken a few days not to come up the hill, I actually felt well enough to come up the hill. I'm not going to go all the way up and around. That would be another half mile or so going straight up, and I'm not going to do that today. But I have gotten up onto the hill, and I'm just sitting here and had a thought that I wanted to present while I was out here in the wilds with the high hill behind me. You can kind of see it going up behind me, and that's not even the top. There's a lot of blue sky back there, but it gets deeper and goes way up behind that. So I have not yet been to the top, but that will come in due time. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today, on the climb, how do you keep the energy to climb? Obviously, resting when you need to is extremely important. But one of the things that it really takes to be able to handle the opportunities of the 21st century is to have emotional intelligence and to be able to declutter. Now, I owe some of this concept from my own life coach, Miss Coretta Clark of MyMentor.life. I owe some of this to her. The idea of decluttering physically is something I knew about. Emotionally, different conversation. The idea is there's a lot in our lives that takes a lot of emotional energy. And I'm going to give you a short overview here. As black people in America, we have to deal with everything else everybody else has to deal with on top of one other thing. From the colonial period, if you start with the English from 1619, if you start with the Spanish in Florida, we're talking about since 1526. So 495 years or 425 years, depending on how it is you want to deal with that. You were not expected to have any of the rights, privileges, or goals of being human. So all your human goals, aspirations, needs, none of that counted. You don't have to worry about any of that. That wasn't even in the picture. So the idea that you even had the right to account for your own well-being was not anywhere on the table for the people that gave the shape to this country. So, okay, count off 350 good years from 1526 before freedom of a sort even comes in 1865 for everybody. So just count that off. Just take from 1526 to 1865 and put 200, 300 years in getting that. So that means that the country's opinion is set, and that you could easily add on another 150 years and people still are not willing to accept this premise. Because if 350 years the country is not accepting this premise, then you might expect that 150 years, which is only half that time, is not going to undo it. It's just simply not going to happen. So what I need you to realize from this is that people are still not used to the idea in the United States of America that you as a black person need time to rest and recover from life, and that you're not going to always be constantly producing, except there's an assumption, being American period, is that if you're not already rich and you're not already calling shots, you exist merely to produce for someone that is. That's just being an American person who is poor, and being black on top of that, where there are systems designed like private prisons and crime bills written by President Joe Biden in his senator days to put you in a more productive situation, making prison goods at 90 cents to $4 a day, essentially back into slavery, if you're not judged productive enough. Then you got to also account for we as black people are free, but we may not have had the conversations with one another about how to treat each other as free people. If you break down all this conversation, this foolishness that goes on between black men and women online, it basically has to do with the fact that there are a certain amount of black men that want to use black women as their chattel and come up, and there's a certain amount of black women that want to use black men to be their chattel and their come up. And instead of understanding that we all need to detox from slavery thinking, we're taking it out on each other. Please refer to the Willie Lynch letter, 1712, which, whether a man named Willie Lynch wrote it or not, it accurately describes. I'm keeping my head on a swivel because I am in a public park. So I am looking around as people come through. It is an interesting time in American history to be a black person in the wild. You have to look at the fact that one of the things that letter said was turn the men against the women, and if you do this, you can hold them another 300 years. The Willie Lynch letter purports to have been written in 1712. The warranty is up, but the work has not expired. So if the men and the women are fighting each other, the children will never understand what it is to be a full, free human being and get the kind of support to be all that they can be for themselves. That's what's going on. We have not settled in ourselves that we are free, and that requires us to treat one another with the respect and support necessary, not only physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, to live out all of being a free human beings. And we live in a culture, I don't want to look down at you, sorry. We live in a culture that does not encourage us to have these conversations either. Because most poor people in this culture are also thoroughly Americanized, meaning that Americans at this particular moment don't have a lot of respect for Americans, period. You know, you can get killed for being a different political party at this point in the wrong place at the wrong time, or being at a protest on another side of an issue. Shout out to the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. You know, you have judicial agencies acting a straight fool because they agree with this young man and are just acting a straight fool in the court, sitting on the bench, having zero respect for the lives of the people that have been lost, that were killed by this young man. So we are modeling ourselves after a culture like no less than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I'm afraid I'm integrating my people into a burning house. We've been in that burning house now for 50 years. So the question becomes, how do we take steps forward? And I'm actually taking steps forward to make my point. How do we take steps forward? Okay, gotta get to where I'm not washing out the background here. Here we go, that's better. How do we take steps forward in order to be able to get to where we need to be? One of the things we have to learn, and this is the situation that we're in. The other thing about becoming successful, everybody in the United States on an average level is programmed not to believe that you as a black person should have control of your own resources and your own life. 495 years of programming. So you get into situations where things are commonsensical. You know, they're not nonsensical, but commonsensical. That should be obvious. People will not do things for you that they would run and jump to do for other people in the same position. Because subconsciously, they're thinking, you don't deserve to have that. And people do not want to be proved wrong. So whether they openly oppose you in a racist way, or they subconsciously oppose you in a racist way because their ego will not allow them to be proved wrong, they will do things to slow down your progress and to help you not succeed. So you have to have a lot of emotional fortitude. Today, I am delayed being on my walk because I spent an entire hour and a half with a fellow volunteer trying to work out. We've known that 6 plus 5 is 11 since we were 3 years old. She's an accountant, I'm not, but I've been adding, subtracting, and multiplying since I was 3. Other people who work for us, who we pay tens of thousands of dollars every year, get paid to not have to work these things out, but will send us into the year billing that is massively off on checks that we know cleared. So we have to spend our time doing their job. And we know if they were white, a white group of people in our position would not have to go through this, because number one, we would have fired them a long time ago. And with them having fired a long time ago, the respect that a white group would get handling these kind of resources would be much higher. But because people subconsciously have this impression that you don't deserve to have that anyway, while they do not, and this isn't just white people either, because people subconsciously agree on this, because this is our American programming, it's harder for you to get things done as a black person in America, because it's not just one racial group. It's everybody feeling like, how did you get that and skip over us? So the first thing you're going to have to develop to take advantage of the 21st century is enough emotional fortitude to just deal with that kind of pressure. And I'll talk in future days about other things you might want to do to help you get ready for that. And how do you build that? How do you take things out that take up emotional energy that you're going to need? And how do you put things in that give you the kind of emotional fortitude that you're going to need? Because as you're on the climb, trust me on this, you're not going to get that far up the mountain or up the hill before you begin to run into not only just jealous people, but you run into resistance from above. And a lot of it comes from the fact that since people don't understand how you're able to do what you can do anyway, subconsciously, their whole subconscious is fighting with, why do you even have that? And how do you get so you got to do all that emotionally as well as the tactical. And we need to kind of talk about how do I do this without going crazy? One of the things I do is get out and take my walk every day that I feel well enough for my mental, not just for my physical. Now, the physical is nice too. I'm down 3 dress sizes and I'm soon to add a 4th. That's nice, but that's not the reason. I actually have as I told you before, I have a severe injury and I got to lose a certain amount of weight anyway because I want to be able to do what I want to do at 40. But how do you take care of yourself mentally and emotionally to give you the ability to jump over the hoops you have to jump over as a black person that other people don't? I'm going to tell you what number 1 is, but we'll talk about it another time. It's a touchy subject. In the black community, we don't want people to think we're crazy. And so we don't do therapy and life coaching. There's a stigma about that. Here's the deal. What you don't heal from will kill you. We know that on a physical level. What you don't heal from will kill you. It will kill your chances of doing better in life than what you're doing now, if that's what you want to do. We'll get into that in some detail next time. All right. You have a good day now. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.